Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Book Leads Impactful Books for Life and Leadership. I'm your series host and leadership performance coach, John Jaramillo. This podcast series is about getting to the books that have impacted my network, made a difference in their lives, whether they were the author or not. So I consider my guests great leads to get to those books that have made those differences in their work, their business, their personal life. I think lessons transfer from one field and sphere that you operate into the next. So I'm lucky to have my guests come on and share all their information, who they are with me, their background. And in this particular series, I cover three categories of books. The first category is a book that I haven't read that they're sharing with me. Second category is one that we've both read, whether specifically for the series or that we've read in our previous lives before the episode. And then the third category is when I speak to authors or publishers about books that they've put out there, kind of to put a face and a tone to the message that they're trying to get out there through their book. So today I'm lucky enough to have another author, and my guest today is Lisa Haisha, and featured as one of the top life coaches to watch in 2023 by Entrepreneur Magazine. Lisa is a television host, mother, entrepreneur, personal coach, author, cultural researcher, world traveler, motivational speaker, corporate keynote, and spiritual healer. Lisa has traveled to over 80 countries to learn from people on their terms, including in boardrooms, yurts, Bedouin caves, South American jungles, ancient cities, prisons, and orphanages. And I want to ask you about that lineup, Lisa. That's very interesting. Leveraging those learnings and her education, holding a master's in spiritual psychology, Lisa packaged her unique methodology into her best-selling SoulBlazing book, helping thousands worldwide live more purposeful, authentic lives. So Lisa, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you. It's so good to be here.
So Lisa, I read the bio. Obviously, that's very general, give some highlights, but who are you today, just so that we can understand your value, what you bring to your clients and your work? What does your day-to-day look like? Who are you today and how you operate?
That's an interesting question because it could go into so many different directions. But who I am today is someone who values peace. And I am someone who looks at the world as a whole. I'd love to bring more division. I'm focusing more on humanity with all the crises that are going on, which wasn't my priority a few years ago. So who I am today as a person, I get up, I smile first thing because I woke up. It's another beautiful day. Regardless of what's going on in your life, you woke up, you have an opportunity to shift things, and you get to hug someone and see someone you love. And you may not get that opportunity sometime. Then I do my Kriya yoga. I learned from Sadhguru. It's a beautiful process. It's about 21 minutes to 30 minutes, depending on if you want to elongate it. And it really focuses on being in tune with yourself, your thoughts, your feelings, and getting rid of all the chaos that's going on in your life of, oh my God, I've got to do this, I've got to do that, the pressure, da, 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 da. So it just balances you, focuses you, and actually detoxes your body. So I've seen a huge difference and change. I'm on day 38. So it's like before I just used to meditate, which is great too, but this is a special type of meditation. And from that point forward, and I take my daughter to school, and then I do my CEO work and do the emails, and then I have podcasts like this all the way up till 3:30, pick my daughter up, give quality time there. So really who I am today is about balance. I really have strong values in being the best mom I can, being the best friend, being the best sibling. I have 4 sisters. So it's, and I'm writing a book, which is, we could talk about later, called Under a Baghdad Roof, which I just turned it into publishers and they gave me notes. So I have to just do a few fixes. And that's about my journey to Iraq and back. So I'm a writer. I just created a Bible for a reality show, and it looks like that was just greenlit. That'll shoot in January. So it's juggling all these different aspects of who I am, but the funnel leads to, how do I help the world be a better place? How do I help people feel comfortable in their skin? How do I help people love themselves? Because if you love you, you could love other people, and the whole world could become a better place. It starts with you. When you hear clients and people say, oh, I hate this person, or that person just needs to be dead to make our world better, it's like, it starts with you. Then it permeates from there. So if everyone started with them and said, I'm going to watch what words I choose to use, and I'm going to stay in my lane of not being influenced by all this negativity, our world could shift and change dramatically.
Lisa, what is the coaching? If you could give us a breakdown of the coaching services that you offer your clients, what does that look like?
I offer one-on-one, but that's very rare. I only take 3 people at a time. And I usually like to help them understand what their core problems are, why they're sitting in the room with me, why they want coaching. And then I like to send them off. And if they want to be with someone for a year, or 2 years, or 3 years for someone to touch base with, that would be another person. All I like to do is really hone in, and I have razor focus. I'm laser focused. I'm right in, and I could tell what's going on with someone because I've traveled all over the world. I've lived with people from all over the world, and I feel my experiences help me see through the bullshit really fast. And I'm fearless with that. And I walk that tightrope of being gentle and kind and strong at the same time. So we help, really deconstruct what's happened in their life and why and where they want to go and what steps they need to do to get there. Then I hold their hand through the first couple months of that. Then I release them once I see that they understand the process. They could come in for checkups, but I don't like to work with people forever.
Yeah, it's interesting, and it's great that you mentioned peace, just because that's something that I've come to appreciate the last couple of years, where it may have used to or have been about success and fulfillment and accomplishment, and then you hear about, yes, being grateful for what you have. But I found just having a peaceful heart, it just it impacts me a lot. So it's interesting. I'm hearing this word more and more, peace, and it's, for me, again, it's different from gratitude, but it's just to be able to breathe, to be in yourself, to really, yeah, be in the moment. I've never meditated, but I have a newfound appreciation for what peace really means.
Yeah, it just starts your day off with connecting to yourself and your higher self, your authentic self, where all the BS of the day just gets washed away. And then you could say, now what's on my agenda today? And you could approach it with such a different mindset compared to jumping into chaos, this and that. Like even this, my assistant forgot to give me notes for you or to say who you were and all that. I'm like checked in to like look and review. And I'm like, oh, there's nothing there. I sent it to her. Who is this person? What are we talking about today? And she sent me the sheet of all the questions. I'm like, oh, I don't have time to even look at that because I just got home. And if I don't do the Kriya, just for an example, I might go, oh my God, panic. I can't do this. And I need prep work and I need to really think about this and that. But when you do the work, you just say it doesn't matter. Nothing matters and everything matters, but nothing matters. It's just, you're going to download what's need to be said in the interview and that's it. And maybe that comes from being seasoned a little bit too, but the fact is, whatever happens in your life, like they're doing road construction on the way to school today. So it took us out in 20 more minutes. And instead of panicking, oh, are we going to be late? It's like, no, we leave. If you're not 15 minutes early, you're late is a new motto I put. So we left with time. And I was sharing that with her. Look, if we left at the regular time, we wouldn't have known this. Now we'd be panicking. But so it's just preparation. I think when you meditate, I do it morning and night to cleanse the day of whatever happened during the day and get peaceful to get a good night's sleep. And I do it in the morning. And it just really helps ground. And it's so interesting. As much as I like it, it's the first thing where you go, oh, I don't have time. Let me throw that off because
Yeah.
it's a waste of time just sitting there.
Yeah.
I have so many things to do. I've got to do this and that. But it's the most important thing I believe people can do.
Yeah, people may tend to look at it as it's expendable. It's like the first thing that you can toss off, but I can recognize through you and what you're sharing how much value it brings to your life and your work. Lisa, the next question is to understand how you ended up in this path of yours, on this path of yours. What was your upbringing like in terms of whatever it was that influenced you into your career? whether it was college, whether it was family? What was it from your youth that kind of put you on the path to now? Even if there was no way for you to know you were going to end up exactly where you are now, but what were those initial steps for you in terms of what you wanted to be or what you wanted to develop into?
Well, when I was 10, my maternal grandmother came home one day and was talking to me and my 4 sisters, and she said she had been to a psychic that said her daughter, my mother, was going to marry a foreigner and have 5 girls, and one of them was gonna be a star. And I said, "I get to be the star." All my other sisters said, "That's fine. I have no interest in that." And I'm like, "I don't even know what a star is," but it just sounded cool. So I started going, "Oh, that's an actor." And if, as a woman, especially back then, it was like, you can't ever be a director, writer, producer. Women take you're the actor, you're the model, you're those kind of roles. So I'm like, "Oh, cool." So I started reading biographies of all these successful actors like the Lauren Bacalls, Elizabeth Taylors, Marilyn Monroe's, all these type of people. And I got a book on Strasberg because he was training everybody. And so that was my focus. So I thought, oh, I'm going to stay at home, go to college, then move to LA and become an actress at 22. So that was hardwired at that time. But then when I was 16, my dad is really strict. He's from a Middle Eastern background, Iraq, and moved here later in his life. And, so we lived under a Baghdad roof in San Diego, which was very challenging because it's completely different cultures. So one day I was baking a cake a few houses down, and I came back when the streetlights were on, which is a huge no-no. But we got home at 3:30, and by the time we baked the cake, it's like 5:30. And when I walked the door, my dad was there, and he was so livid. And he said, "Oh, you're a bad influence on everyone. We got to send you to an orphanage. You can't stay here," and all this stuff. And I'm like, what? Which was shocking because I love my dad. And how could he say that when I'm just baking a cake for my friend's birthday the next day? And it was like just 6 o'clock or something. And but that woke me up. That made me go, "Oh, wow. He's always trying to protect me from all the evil out in the world." So this is when all the serial killers were big, Charles Manson and, the Hillside Strangler and all these other ones. So they were very protective. So I said, oh, maybe the enemy's within, even though I didn't think he was an enemy. But I thought, let me do research on that. And that got me going to let me start hitchhiking, sneaking out of my window and getting in cars with these people that I'm supposed to fear. So I started hitchhiking with guys in just broken down cars, tattoos and piercings. And then, why are you poor? Why are you picking me up? Why do you rape people? Why do you? Oh, I don't rape you. Oh, yeah, you do, because you look like this. My dad warned me about people like you. I would just be bold and fearless. And because I think I had a somewhat of a death wish too. I just didn't care, because I think when you feel, I don't know, when you feel not loved or slighted by a parent or someone close to you that you really respect, they're saying you have to move out. I'm like, it just really affected me. So I'm like, I don't care. So I was reckless. And when you don't have fear, you could do anything you want in the world. It's like, it's great to even muster up that fear, even on a false pretense, because you go in anywhere and you knock down any door, nothing scares you. So I did this and nobody hurt me. And then I thought, oh, this is interesting. And then cut to, I went to LA. We don't have time to get into all that stories, when I was 22. And then I started seeing, a lot of things that I didn't like, a lot of Me Too stuff. And, you got to work your way up. And I just couldn't do that with my family. My dad said, you do one thing wrong and you're ruining like 50 or 60 people's lives, because he was the 14th child. Everyone had kids, 5 kids, 9 kids. He said, your reputation affects everyone. So it was like, I can't do anything. So I quit. I decided to go find my roots. Let me go to Baghdad and talk to Saddam Hussein and figure out this mentality and all this stuff. And so I went by myself, and I was watching Christiane Amanpour, who's a wonderful journalist, one of the best. And she was talking about how Iraq, this is during Desert Storm, how you can't fly in and out of Iraq now. You have to go to Jordan and take an 18-hour bus ride. And then it gets stopped 5 times, and who knows who's going to get on board. It's like terrorists, or, they kidnap Americans for money, or it's just generals. We don't know. So I thought, oh, I could get on that bus and I could get kidnapped, and then I could write a book with whoever kidnaps me, and I could turn him from a terrorist to a humanitarian. And I said, then I'll be on CNN, then I could become Christiane Amanpour, be a war reporter. So again, the fearlessness came in. So I got a fake Louis Vuitton bag, cubic zirconia, and all this stuff to go on there. So when they came in, I'm like, oh, wow. Oh, all my diamonds for my relatives to help.
Oh
All
my
this.
God.
And nobody did. Everyone couldn't have been nicer. Salam alaikum and peace be upon you. And I'm like, wait, where are all the bad guys? So we get to the hotel, the Al Rashid Hotel, where all the journalists stayed. So I said, just take me there. And there was one room left. I stayed there a month, and it was during the time where all the expatriates were there, about 200 from all over the world who grew up in Iraq that are there trying to help the situation. So they're from Germany and France, the United States and Canada, everywhere. So I started hanging out with them, and I got to meet Tariq Aziz and Taha Ramadan, the vice president, but I didn't get to meet Saddam. And that's a whole nother story. That's what my book's about. So I could go on and on for 3 hours about that, but that shifted me. And after getting to meet those people, I went to my dad's hometown, Tel Keef, and all they had was a hospital, a school, and an orphanage in a grocery store. So I went to the orphanage because my dad, I'm like, oh, I could have been an orphan. And I started talking to the kids and all that, and it changed my life. They're like, why is America killing us? Why don't they don't care? Why is there war? Why is this? My uncle died. My father lost his leg. My mom, and it just broke my heart. I said, I care about you. He goes, no, you don't. Nobody cares. And I said, we do. It's just politics and government. And I said, I'll memorialize your words. And I'm like, how am I going to do that? So I ended up writing this book, Whispers from Children's Hearts. And I spent the next 5 years traveling to 15 countries, staying and working in orphanages, talking to them. And then I put their quotes together in this book, like a coffee table book. And then I moved to Barcelona to put my daughter in first grade there because I wanted a shift and a change, and I wanted her to speak another language. And I gave it to schools and libraries, and I got asked to speak everywhere. So now I'm in Rome, I'm in Lisbon, I'm in London, I'm in Tel Aviv, I'm everywhere speaking all over Barcelona, all the schools in there, then in Madrid. And that started me. I wasn't a speaker. I wasn't an author. I was nothing. I was just a lost soul going, who am I? What am I? I just quit my dream. So I have no direction, and I'm depressed, and I don't care if I die again. I don't know what to do. And so I said, let me go on this journey and figure it out. And so that journey took me everywhere. And then when I came back, I had such a great time talking with all these people from around the world and hearing so many people's problems and tragedies that I thought, oh, I want to formalize this. So I said, let me go get a master's in psychology. Since I felt very street smart after doing all of this, I said, let me get credentials and just learn more and go more in depth into what it is to be a human today. And together with that, one of our last projects in school was, if you were writing a book, what would it be about? And come up with a name for your type of coaching. I went, all right. So then SoulBlazing came out, and I decided to call it this because they took us to prisons to do some of our 3,000 hours. And one of the women in the prison on my last day, my last client, was so mean. She was so evil in and out. She's been in there for over 20 years. She murdered 3 people. And she had a shaved head with a snake coiled around her scalp and down her arms, and muscular. And she's like, who do you think you are? You can't relate to us. And was just so mean going into me. And I'm like, I could relate. And, she's like, I hate your briefcase. I said, I hate it too. I brought it here to impress you. But apparently it's not. Anyway, we started bonding and connecting. Then at the end of our session, she said, you blazed my soul. And I said, wow, that's what I do. I'm a soul blazer. After going to all these orphanages and really soul to soul conversations, I wasn't being a therapist with her. I was being like a soul counselor. And I went, that's what I do. I said, you just gave me the name for my business. So your life does have meaning. This is who you are. And then we're both crying. And I said, I'm going to call myself a soul blazer from now on. My therapy is SoulBlazing. And I inspired her to, the next 6 months, use the payphone in the prison and raise $75,000 for battered women, because she said she was battered. That's why she did that to her husbands. So, I mean, changed her life. I said, instead of being the bully of the prison, why don't you be the angel of the prison? Anyway, we worked all this out through the sessions and blah, blah, blah. So I thought, wow, if I could touch someone's life like that, and I could work with orphans, and I'm working with, I was an actor, so I'm working on movie sets. And I said, oh, I've got this degree, I need hours. So I'm working with all the challenging actors on sets. I'm doing all this stuff. So it's a wide range of people. And then I got a job to model in Tokyo, and I started working with top businessmen, the millionaires and billionaires running companies. And there's like, we don't believe in therapy. I'm like, well, just let's talk off the record. And then they started calling me all the time. Oh, I need this. I'm going, why are you talking to me? You guys don't believe in therapy. And they said, oh, we can't talk to our spouse because they get nervous if there's a problem. We can't tell our friends because there's jealousy and competitiveness. We can't tell our colleagues because nobody can know what you're thinking, because they all have that, stone face where, nobody knows what's going on, because they always have to act perfect and they're on top of it. So they could complain to someone else. I said, that's what therapy is. It's not entirely, but that's the purpose of having someone outside your life, to listen to you and be a good listener. So I think all those experiences together brought me to where I am today.
So does it, I mean, obviously your childhood led into this, but how do you connect that to your childhood? Does it make sense that this is what you're doing based on your childhood?
Yeah, because I needed someone like me. If I had someone to talk with and someone to say, oh, no, that's just a silly thing parents do to scare you to stay in line, or to scare the other siblings, or that's just, if I had anyone to talk with or a book to read, it would have saved me years of being self-destructive and not caring about life and taking so many risks. I look at some of the things I did, I'm like, oh my God, I'd kill my daughter if she did those things. And it teaches me how to now be a better parent and be careful of words I use that could be destructive.
Yeah, so many conversations on here have turned to childhood trauma and just mentioning that and what the impact has been. So, and a lot of my guests have echoed those words that you've just said, kind of to be careful about what they say around their children, how they treat their children. It's amazing how many people might have that kind of relationship with their past, but also the paradox, the double-edged sword is that most of that is what makes you who you are today.
Mhm.
That's the
Yeah.
unfortunate part. You have to go through all that, but then it makes you who you are today, accomplishing what you're accomplishing and sharing what you're sharing and helping who you're helping.
Yeah, I told my dad that, he passed about 5 years ago, and I said, "Thank you for everything." He said, "I'm so sorry about that." I go, "Would you still do it today?" He goes, "Yeah, I would," because at that time, that's what I thought, and I had to protect the integrity of 5 girls and all your cousins and everything else. He said, "If you then stayed out a half hour later, then you didn't come home till late." He said, "Then it gets out of hand. You gotta nip it in the bud before it gets bad." But so we laughed, and I said, "Well, I'm glad you did it, because if you didn't, I would have stayed in San Diego probably and just got a job, just because that's what everyone else did." And, everyone's just go get college, then go to those, the different companies, come to the school, then you get
Mhm.
yourself, and then you're working for 20 years. And I said, "You saved me from that kind of life, which I don't think I was cut out for." So I much rather travel, and which I was obsessed with, traveling like 6 months a year, and everyone's saying, "Oh, by the time you're 40, you're gonna be broke, you're gonna not be married, have no kids, and all that stuff. You can't do that, you're being reckless." And I'm like, "I can't help it. So I'm being so drawn and pulled. Let me go live in Peru for 6 weeks. Let me go live in Petra and stay with Bedouins and caves and learn about their life and their lifestyle, and how they have 3 to 5 wives, and how's the family dynamics. Let me go to stay with Sufis, in Cappadocia, and learn about what they do, and how do they meditate. They meditate in caves, and they have bats around. I mean, it's just fascinating, all these different lives. And go to Rumi's, tombstone, and he's one of my greatest teachers. And what is he about? Let's learn. Let's deep dive into all these different cultures. Let me stay in a yurt in Spain and work with people over there in these small, intimate, fire chats, and um, work with students everywhere, work with actors. Then I was married, and I ended up getting married in my 40s to a big producer. showrunner, and now I'm on sets of these big shows, and then start working with all these big, actors and getting into their minds. And then I worked and volunteered for the homeless, um, and taught them writing and reading. So I'm getting into the minds of these teens and 20-year-olds that are, in challenging positions of figuring out who am I, what am I. I'm like, I was there too, giving them direction and giving them writing prompts to help them solve their issues and teaching them how to write a movie. Now I've been working with Kids in the Spotlight, this wonderful organization that has foster kids write, direct, and star in their own plays,
That's
5-minute
amazing.
short films. And then they have award ceremonies, best actor, best director. Then all these Hollywood people come, and about 1,000 people come, and it's in a big auditorium, and they get limos that drive them there. They get stylists and makeup artists, everyone volunteering. And you see how much they change just by being seen and sharing their story, and not having any shame attached to it or guilt. They're like, this is just what happened because we teach. It's just a story. Nothing's real. You're the writer, director, producer of your life. If you don't like your life, you get to change the lead character, which is you. Write in a different script for yourself. You don't have to stay on that path. You don't have to say, I'm broke, nobody loves me, I have no friends, I've got no talent. Okay, so now let's change the script of your part. You're in a great dynamic relationship. What skills do you need for that? What are you looking for? Then those are the skills you need to create. How do you create those? And let's backstep and start building those blocks. And when you start seeing these changes in people going, I had no idea like a year ago that I could be where I am today. It's just, there's nothing that matters more than that. Nothing, John. It's, if you're not changing lives, you're not living fully. If it's just about me, I've got to get this, and I got to get this, and I got to amass 1 million, now 2 million, now 5 million. And in some of my millionaire friends, some of these big, people in film and CEOs, they say you're standing at a ledge. Even if you've got 10 million, you're looking there. That person has 20 million. Then when you're at the 20 million, that person has 50 million. That person's a billionaire. I've got to get into that club. It's just like never ends. And you're obsessed with and will topple anyone and not care, just for your goal to be richer, because that will build your self-esteem because you don't like yourself. So I talk to those people and say, what do you have to prove? You're not taking all this with you. None of your kids need this much money. Instead, why aren't you focusing on this or building organizations to help this, and this? And it's just powerful when they listen and they get a mind shift. And the ones that don't, it's okay too, because that's where they are, and that's life. Life is ugly and dark, and it's beautiful and bright. So who are you being? That's fine, because we all have light and dark. You could let your dark shine sometime, or your light shine sometime. And they'll get it when they get it, and whatever it is, it's perfect. You know why? Because that's the way it is. So you don't judge, you don't, it's your life. I'm just giving advice if you want to be happier before you die. Because when you die, you're not going to go, oh my God, thank God I have an extra 50 million in my account. You're going to say, God, how do I feel? Who's at my bedside? Who cares that I'm dying? Who really loves me? Not fans. Who really loves me?
Yeah, it's I mean, just going back to what you were saying about what people shared and being seen. Um, I think a lot of people, they're just not seen because they're building up that kind of facade you were just talking about, where it's not really them, but it's just, to keep up with the Joneses or whoever it may be. But it's powerful when somebody, I was just talking to a friend about this maybe 2 nights ago, that it's you find a peace when you can eventually show who you really are, that there's no need to kind of puff your chest or whatever it may be. There's no exaggeration. You are who you are, and you can share that. It's I knew it was important, but once I started really feeling like that, it's incredible how liberating and how freeing it is to feel that way, to feel that peace
Mhm.
of demonstrating who you are and just putting it out there. Kind of like whatever the reaction may be, fine, but that freedom you can breathe because you are finally showing who you are.
Yes.
Lisa, what does leadership coach over here? So what does leadership mean to you? I'm curious, especially with your worldly experience, all your traveling, the different cultures that you've learned about, lived in. What does leadership mean to you?
I think the best leaders are the best listeners. I'm sure you've heard you have 2 ears and 1 mouth. So the more you listen and hear what the needs are of your company or individuals, employees, um, that's what matters most. So being a good communicator, not a dictator, not micromanaging. I think a good leader sees their company as a home and tries to build in camaraderie and not competition, but we're all on the same team. And you get this slice, you get this slice, you get this slice, you get that slice, and bringing everyone together almost like families, like the families that have dinner every night, then have conversations and everyone shares a little bit about their day. It brings a closeness and they're more solid and they're more in sync naturally. So I think the same way with a company, like with my company, I have most of my people who are here in LA, we get together and we talk about other things besides business. And then how can I help support you? What are you doing? What are you doing? Who in this company could help them? And you all help each other, because if one wins, we all win. It's not just one winner and this one's a loser. If someone's weaker, lift that person up. If someone's higher, be that leader too. So I think it's listening, it's guiding, it's communication, and being who you are. You could tell people, but it's just like a parent. It's not what you say, it's who you're being. So if you're being patient, kind, helpful, generous, trusting, here's your job, and not, oh, you have to change this, you have to do this constantly, but guiding. And if there's something that's wrong, you share and you explain in a way that gives them inspiration to do better for you. Not, oh, my boss is such a jerk and I got to get this done, because then when they're stressed, they can't do their best either.
Awesome. Great examples. Thank you, Lisa. Now we can get to your book. Can you give it a general overview of how the book came to be? You gave a general idea, but what was like that trigger moment where you're like, okay, now I'm going to actually put this together. I'm going to publish this and get this out there.
Well, I started keeping case studies because I was speaking then more frequently and with my clients. And so I had it broken down of different jobs and different age groups and, different fields. Like, are these foster kids? Are these CEOs? Are these actors? Are they teens? Are they, 30 somethings? Are they empty nesters? Who am I dealing with? And keeping track of all the different stories and reading them. I'm like, this is so fascinating. We're different stages in our lives, how we have completely different values and what we want. And the older you get, the more you want is connection. The younger you get, you just want me, me, me. What's best for me? Grab, grab, grab. And then you want, let me, 20s and 30s, I just got to get everything so I could retire and give the best for my family. But then it's like, wait a minute, what's important? So I think once I got all those stories, I thought, oh, I've got to put that in some sort of book. And then I thought, oh, let me do a coaching book so I could have people just coach themselves, where they don't even need somebody else, where they could ask themselves these thoughtful questions. And I created a type of coaching with imposters. I was inspired by reading a book about schizophrenia and how you have so many different personalities and how some take over. Some could even be a rapist, and the other one could be like a priest, and another one could, that's a bad example, but someone could be like a Nobel laureate, whatever. And they don't even know what the other one's doing. So I thought, oh, that's fascinating. If you take that down a notch, I think we all have that. Like, we have our overthinker who are you to write this book? Who are you to do this? There's enough of this out in the world. Nobody cares about what you have to say. And you keep procrastinating or writing some, it's not good enough. And perfectionist gene comes in. Or you have your victim. Well, I don't have money. This person was brought up with money, or this person has looks and I don't have that. This person, all your flaws of reasons why you can't make it. Then you spend your time tearing down people who have made it because of all the, luxuries they were born into. Or the judge, you're judging everybody else because you judge yourself so harshly that you judge everyone else. And, this seductor, you get where you are just by seducing people, like Harry Weinstein's and, a bunch of other people who use sex, men and women, to get, a favor from someone. So who are you in the world? Who are you being? Are you a fixer? Are you someone who's always fixing other people's problems so you don't have to worry about your own, or to be liked or to be accepted or valued? So you got to think about what's leading you and how are those aspects of you putting a muzzle on your authentic soul. So this book breaks down all these different types, and I'm sure there's many more. What I did was with, 500 plus people that I've worked with over 5 years, I wrote down what they were. And so I took the top 7 and put them in the book. But there's so many more, and you could create your own. It's not just limited to this of who am I being, but I think it covers a wide range. And when I start working with people, I'm like, oh, it's not you, it's your imposter that is the egotist that made that decision, that fired someone so brutally and ruined their life, or did whatever it is you did. Or in your family life, you decide to have an affair because you deserve it and your spouse is this or that. So when you see yourself and then you say, oh, there's this person who's living on the stage of my brain making these decisions for me, unless I get in touch with that aspect of me, make amends with that part of you, your life is never going to really work out. And that's again where I find meditation. When I start going, God, I don't want to work out today, or I don't want to see this person, I don't want to do this. Or you don't write, fill out those resumes, whatever it is you're supposed to do. So it's self-sabotage. You look at what aspect of me is doing this. Oh, I don't think I'm going to get the job anyway, or I don't want to put myself up to be, fail again. They say that a lot of teenagers and 20-somethings aren't having sex today because big difference from our generation, apparently. A lot online. And, just through swiping left and right and social media, they're getting rejected so much, or there's the fear of watching other people that they're so afraid they just want to keep to themselves. It's like, I've had enough of stress and all of that. It was a very interesting study. So it's the same thing. It's like, what are you programming yourself to be? What aspect of you are you allowing to dominate your life? And what our goal is to get to our authentic self. Once you're that, everything will work out, because when you're authentic, people like you like yourself, you're clear, your goals are clear, your values are clear. But when you're letting your egotist or seductor or judge or fixer, all these people get in the way, your life's always going to keep, oh, this is great, I'm almost there, oh, I failed. Oh, climbing up the ladder, oh, I failed. Why? Because that aspect of you, don't do it. You're never going to make it. Say this, ruin your chances, wear this, be late, whatever it is. Don't respond to those emails. Put it off for a week.
Yeah, and I didn't mention the full title, but it's SoulBlazing: Transform Your Imposters into Superpowers and Live a More Purposeful, Authentic Life. Lisa, for that idea of imposters, when did you start playing around with that? When did you start seeing it that way? Did it just click? Maybe when you were working with a client and you just heard them talking in a different kind of voice. When did that concept of the imposter really jump out as something separate to understand, study, and then write about?
I think without me knowing, it started when I was in acting class. So I took 2 years of acting at Strasberg and with the Groundlings. I don't know if you're familiar with the Groundlings. It's like Second City, kind of like Saturday Night Live. So when you're studying Stanislavski, it's really about, sense memory, Strasberg sense memory, going back, what's an experience and bringing it forward. And then the Groundlings was more like Saturday Night Live, create characters and do these funny skits based on how this character would think, talk, be, do. So I think the combination of those, I found it so interesting and exciting. Oh, I don't have to be me. As long as I change my accent and give myself a different name, wear different clothes, and say these outrageous things as this character, it's not me. And I think I got such joy out of it. And I think I was pretty good at it. And then going back into sense memory of this happened and creating characters out of the different aspects of that broken self. I think that's where it really started without me knowing. Because when I started doing this, I started looking at people and going, what if that wasn't you? What if you just stepped up in a box in front of you? I think I read an article about Arnold Schwarzenegger. He said when he leaves his house, he puts a box in front of him and he steps in that box. And he's not Arnold, he's Arnold Schwarzenegger. And he goes out in the world with that persona. And Marilyn Monroe did that too. She said she's Norma Jean in Marilyn. Norma Jean had a different walk, a different sound of voice, a different cadence. Marilyn was more breathy and she walked, swaying her hips more, and she dressed differently, where Norma Jean was more pragmatic and, just, wear a scarf on her head and wear baggy clothes and sandals and just get the job done, go to the grocery store and come back. So Marilyn created a scene. So I think when I was working with clients, I thought, well, what if you weren't you? Well, I have to be this way. This is how I was brought up. Well, try to be this way. What if you were brought up in a completely different atmosphere? Who would you be? Let's create that character. And I acted out with them and we would laugh so hard that going, okay, wait. So when you're in that situation or you're on a job interview, remember this moment, remember this person you just created. And I think slowly, I've been doing this since 2000. I graduated in 2001. So I've been doing this a long time. So I think by 2008, it started to get developed. Then I thought, oh, let me write a book. And it took me this long. It took me till 2021, like 20 years later. But that's good in a way too, because it gave me a tremendous amount of data and experience.
Yeah, I like that image of before you leave the house doing an exercise like that, just because I think so many of us operate in reactive mode. And I think even doing something where it kind of wakes you up, it's just waking you up to who you really are. You're just becoming cognizant that you can't just navigate through life reacting to what comes your way, that you have to be more proactive about it. So I like that exercise about, even visualizing yourself putting on, a cape, if you will, and just reacting and acting in the world that way. But again, coming back to who you are. I think it's putting on somewhat of a bravery, but to be yourself. I think when people, like you said, are authentic, I mean, it's just this confidence that allows, I think confidence is just your fire actually coming out. You're giving yourself permission, you've done the work, and just demonstrating who you really are. So I like that idea of taking that moment and just reminding yourself that you got to really step into it and not just let whatever's out there come at you.
Yes. And they say you are a combination of 5 closest people to you. And what I teach my clients is I have it up on my wall here. I have Anais Nin, because she's a great writer. She passed like 20 years ago. Herman Hesse, he's one of my favorite writers, Siddhartha and those type of books. I have Oprah for her humanitarian work and helping all the children. I've got Simone de Beauvoir, because she was one of the first people to help the women's movement. I have Gandhi, because he fought for what he believed in without violence and humanity. I have Tina Turner, because she's just fearless and just was incredible. Maya Angelou, for her starting off as a prostitute, then going to be a lawyer and all these different jobs, into who she was, like the mother of everybody and the wisdom of just the soul of earth. I just admire her so much. There's Tracy Chapman, Marilyn Monroe, Eve Ensler. I like Tracy because of her guitar playing, her soulfulness, and down to earth. Eve Ensler, because she had cancer several times and she wrote about it in an excruciating way of every detail, not trying to be pretty, not trying to put on a face that she isn't, just saying, this is who I am, take it or leave it. So that fearlessness, because I learned it's not what you say, it's not what you do, it's really how you vibrate. You cannot lie. You cannot say, oh, I'm doing this and that. Your energy shows when you walk in a room. And I wrote and directed and produced a movie too, a couple, but Independence. And the first one I did was Psycho Sushi. But the first one I did, I was saying so many people because there's like 8 main characters, and they'd walk in the room and I would know. They wouldn't even have to open their mouths. I could say, thank you. They walk in for the character. I'm here for this character. Thank you. You could go now. Thank you. You could go. That's, I knew, and never wrong, because they don't have the vibration of that character. This one's supposed to be solid, strong, or this or that. Or they're supposed to be meek and mild, and they're coming in super bold. Going, you didn't even read the part. You don't, it's not who you are, so it's the vibration. And then being on the sets and watching other things with all these big shows, I could see the same thing. Everyone knew, right away. You could interview one person, or you could interview, 1,000, like, for parts, because it's like, it's not right. It's not right. It's not right. So it's who you vibrate. Again, it goes back to meditation. Start with knowing who you are and focusing on that. When Schwarzenegger stood in his box, he'd go out then and say, oh, do you want my autograph? I'm going to be a big star one day, and just signing autographs with people. You're going to know right now. But that's amazing. It's just like, who does that? Tony Robbins did that too.
Yeah.
So,
Lisa, when it comes to the book, how is it structured? Meaning, you mentioned how you went about collecting the stories, the case studies, if you will, and how you put those in there. But if somebody opens it up and they look at the list of the chapters, if it is structured in chapters, what kind of path do you take the leader on as they go through the book?
Part 1 is superpowers or saboteurs. So chapter 1 is what is an imposter. Chapter 2 is the authentic soul. So I get into what am I even talking about? What is an imposter and all that. And I get into where you want to get authentic soul and why that's important. Part 2 is the imposters. Then I have the victim, egotist, seductor, joker, fixer, overthinker, and judge. So I have a chapter on each one, and how really all of us have all of them in us. Can't you see yourself in each one of those? If you look at a situation, if we just wanted to play, if you wanted to get a job, say being a podcast host, and you don't know how to go about getting your own show or creating what you created. If you tried to do it as a victim, can't you see where you would see, oh, maybe I'm not good enough. Let me wait. Let me hold off. Who's doing what? They're so good. I don't know if I'm going to be that good. I'm not maybe smart enough. Look at this person's education. Look at that person's contacts of people they could get on their show. Or you could be the egotist. Who cares about all that? I know I'm the best, and I've got this great look, and I know who I am, and I think I'm a good listener, and you could easily go there. But seductor, you could easily, charm your way in and get people to feel comfortable. And if you feel someone's uptight, you could easily use that aspect of you to go, listen, you're safe with me. It's cool. Or the joker, you could be the joker easily too, and laugh and make these different comments. And the fixer, if I'm not doing a good job or your guest isn't, you could easily go in and rescue them and fix them and ask questions where they're more comfortable in. Or the overthinker, you might be, oh my God, what am I going to say or do with this guest? But then if you overcome it, you can do it. But those things might come in. Oh, what am I going to ask that person? Especially if you get a big high profile person, oh my God, but then you sit down and do the work. Or the judge, start judging someone. Oh, wait, they're not that interesting. Why did I have this person on the show? I don't know where I'm going, or this isn't as good as I thought it would be. So we have all of those. So if you look at your life with any situation you do, you could say, oh, wow, what is leading me into this direction? Like I'm just, got a reality show that I wrote and spent a lot of time creating the Bible for. Then I'm doing these meetings with people to help, produce it and, getting it sold at a, some production company. And, I could go in there like, why you? Why should you be the host? Why would you, well, I created it first of all. And, I've interviewed over 100 people and I've, saying all this stuff, but you could go in there with any of these. So like a good, example is when I was doing a commercial when I just moved to LA. I didn't know about this, but we all know it, is my point. We all know it randomly. Just by life, when you're putting on a different personality to fit in or to, be cool. So I'm going on my first audition, and it was for a lot of money. And I thought, I've got to get this. And it was for teriyaki burger. And it was an open call. So they're seeing about 500 people. So I made sure I was one of the first people So I went in there with my 2 headshot, you have 2 headshots. So I took one of them and I went in there and they said, "Who are you?" Blah, blah, blah. I said, "Oh, it's one of my first auditions and, I'm excited." And so they said, "Okay, we want you to sit here, pretend you're doing work. Then we want you to stand up and the phone's going to ring over there, walk across the room, answer the phone while you're carrying a burger and eating it. Say da 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 da, hang up, go back to your desk and say oishi desk, like the burger." I'm like, okay, nervous. Oh my God, what am I going to say? How many bites should I take? What if I stumble and fall? Do I chew when I'm talking? And so I do it and I end it. And they said, "Thank you very much." And in Hollywood, that means you suck, go home, never, come back again. Then I went home. Ooh, I blew it. Then I could hear my egotist going, "You have that. That was so easy." And I could hear my victim going, "No, it isn't. You try it." And, all these different characters come. My overthinker, you overthink. You shouldn't have done this. You should have done it this way and this way. Anyway, I decided to go back. My egotist won and said, "I'm going to go do it." So I changed clothes, used my other headshot, and I went in at the very end. They said, "God, you look familiar." I go, "Oh, I work all the time. You probably see my commercials." I go, "This is what we want you to do." I sat down with confidence, did it, walked across the room. They said, "Oh my God, you're great." Then they're looking through the pictures. They said, "Wait, is this you?" And I'm like, "Oh my God, I have a twin sister and she doesn't have money. Did she come in and use my photo to get it?" I said, "Oh no, she's a terrible actor." They go, "Oh yeah, she was bad." I said, "But I studied with this person, this person." I said, "Yeah, you're great." By the time I got home, I got the call and that was a $25,000 job. And
Wow.
that's the power of imposters, because you get to create any personality. And I'm like back at the groundlings creating, "Oh, I'm this person who books jobs and everyone wants me. I'm good for them. I went in there. If I get this, I'm servicing them, not please like me. It's like, you guys need me." So it's a completely different mind shift. So I try to get my clients to get into that mindset of, "I have no idea. My kids went to school. I don't know. I just raised kids and I have no experience in life." Go volunteer. Start there. Because when you volunteer, you like yourself more. You have meaning and purpose in your life. You have something to get up in the morning to go do. And then from there, you start meeting people. Then ideas start coming. Then you start creating your life. You can't just sit there in your house and, "I'm bored and I have no friends." I have so many people who are so lonely now. I have no friends and because and look how big Los Angeles is. And it's so sad. It's an epidemic of loneliness, I think, especially after the pandemic. But so that's part one, is what is an imposter and authentic soul. Part two is breaking down all the imposters. And part three is tools and exercises, unpacking everything that you just learned. And I give 10 strong exercises to do. You do daily, and we're going to work out the bugs of these imposters. And then I have some final words and acknowledgments and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's interesting. As you were going through the chapters of the personalities, it was interesting because I was hoping you were going to do that, because as you went through each one, I thought of myself in that role in certain situations. And it could be at work, it could be with a client, it could be with friends, but you're kind of always wearing different hats. So it's interesting that there can be that many, and how impact. I mean, that story you told about the audition, just going in there with that different attitude and getting it done. I mean, it just shows how much, if you put yourself in a different mentality, you can change your
Yes.
own world in a day.
I was the same person, same level of talent, same everything, just a mind shift. And my vibration was different. My vibration was, "You need me. I don't need you." And just that alone changed everything. So then I started going on auditions with that, going, "I'm going to bring my egotist with me," without having that vocabulary. But I'm like, "Oh, I've got to bring my strong self, and they need me. So when I started doing this, I'm like going, "Oh my God, if I had this information
Oh yeah.
years ago, oh wow, I could have used these techniques." And why am I so afraid of these job interviews? Why aren't I getting picked for the job? Well, because you're going in there, "Hi, yeah, I really like the company. Tell us about our company." "Oh, I don't know that much," because you didn't even do the research, because you didn't think you were good, or you do an application and you have misspelled words, especially the company name. Someone came in, a client, saying, "I wrote the company's name down wrong, so I didn't get the job." Like, with
Uh,
Nordstrom, and they forgot that D, Nordstrom's. And I'm like, so they said they didn't hire me because of that. That
uh,
So, I mean, it's all those little things are overthinking and wanting to be liked or being a victim. So let's shift that to everyone needs you and let's see where we go.
At least I'm curious. I always ask this of the authors that I have on the series. In writing the book, how did it change you? Whether it had to do with the actual writing process, like the discipline of writing, or just how you viewed the material, how it changed your thoughts or tweaked the way that you looked through this lens at the content. How did it change you putting this book out?
So many ways. For me, it was like having a baby. It was getting all this information out into the world. I didn't really have a choice to write it because it was in me so strong, and I already wrote so much. I was keeping strong journals of everything. So it was first like 400 pages, and I go, I got to get this down to like 100. Nobody wants to read that much on a self-help book. They'll never finish it. So I go, how can I write it where people could read it? And I go, oh, let me break it down into the different imposters so they could just go, oh, this one's me, and at least just go to that section, even if they don't read the whole book, and then read the end. And you take the imposter quiz on the website, the imposter quiz at lisahaisha.com or soulblazing.com. And once you find out who you are, then you could go to the book and research it. And then you could do the exercises in the back of the book. So I thought this is a very easy way. So what it did was really help me articulate it better of what I do and why I do it, because I had to keep cutting it down, trim, into being a lot more succinct. And it helped me then create a workshop that was easy, that I could do in 1 hour, 3 hours, or 10 hours, or 1 week. It's made it easy to do retreats and workshops for people.
And Lisa, what do you think? Not that I don't like rushing the authors that I interview, but what do you think is next for your writing? What do you want to tackle down the road?
Oh, my next is Under a Baghdad Roof, which is
Okay.
my story going to Iraq and back. And it's kind of like a Thelma and Louise kind of escapist thing, as well as all the depth and tragedy of war.
Okay.
And it's really about standing in your power, going into the darkness to find the light in yourself. And I think that trip made me fearless, and it made me more of a humanitarian. It made me care more. It made me more compassionate. It made me change my values of, I got to be a success. I got to be a millionaire, to how can what I do serve the world, whether I make money or not? How can I make each day count that I'm here? So it's a very different thing, just like the imposters. So you're going through the world with a different vibration and different thing. And once I started doing that, everything started I'm getting calls and emails. I'm not going out there fighting. See me, let me get booked on this and that. People were just coming to me saying, we want you on this. We want to have you speak at this event and that event, from the World Economic Forum to, big architect conferences, which I have nothing to do with architecture. They're big, meditation and spiritual things, women's groups all over the world, big author, conferences. So I think when you sit in your truth and tell your truth, people feel it and it vibrates with them, and they know that they could have strong takeaways from it, because when you really, stories have influenced me. I'm a huge reader and I love autobiographies and memoirs. They're my favorite. And because I really like to get into the, heart and soul of the person who I admire, and how did you become you, and how did you make decisions, and how did you turn tragedy into triumph?
That's great. Thank you. And then Lisa, in starting to wrap up, what do you want to share? What are you up to these days? Something, maybe things we didn't cover or I didn't ask. Is there anything that you want to put out there for this audience?
Yes, I would love to work with as many people as I can. I created a Zoom class that you could sign up for very little money, because that way I could serve a lot of people. Then I have my private one-on-one, but those have a waiting list, and it's, harder to get into and more expensive. And I do retreats and workshops. I'm going to do a retreat in Bali in November, and that's
Oh,
really exciting, at a beautiful retreat.
that's
So
amazing.
you could, yeah. So I think Zoom's a great place to start. And I have different free stuff on my website. different classes you could take and just get more familiar with what I do. And those are the different avenues you could do it.
Lisa, thank you so much for sitting down for this conversation. Thank you for everything you shared. I mean, you seem to have lived multiple lives all over the world. It's just it's one of those things that you hear about, that there are certain people out there doing it, and it's amazing to actually kind of pick your brain about it. So I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you.
And Lisa's book is SoulBlazing: Transform Your Imposters into Superpowers and Live a More Purposeful, Authentic Life. So check that out. I think it's a great message. Just in listening to the way that you described everything and walked us through it, it's interesting because you're like, okay, I'm guilty of that. I'm guilty of that. Yes, this did work one time because I threw caution to the wind and just kind of went with the ego. So I think what's great about the authentic piece, like you said, you pointed out the pandemic, we're living in a different world now. Even though it may seem like it's going back to normal, a lot of people are digging into themselves more to find that purpose, to find that authenticity. So I think it's timely to have a great discussion like this. So thank you, Lisa.
Thank you. And you could find me on Instagram, Facebook, all social media, LinkedIn, YouTube.
Actually, yeah, I'll share all your information when I get to publish this. But for those listening and watching, if there's anything that I might have missed, that I should have asked Lisa, that I might have left out, forgotten, or kind of picked her brain out a little more, please let me know. I'll reach out to her with some questions or any kind of feedback, see if she can provide some additional insight. In the meantime, thank you for watching and listening, and I'll talk to you soon. Take care. Bye.